Hello, everyone. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Welcome to the Byrne Playground Design Meeting number 2. It's our second community meeting. I'm Nellie Ward. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the project manager from the Boston Parks Department. And I'll be overseeing the project and being your point of contact through the design and construction process. And we all would really like to thank you for being here tonight. We had such a great turnout at the last meeting, and we felt really lucky to have such an engaged and involved community at Byrne. And we really appreciate the time that you're giving from your schedule tonight. If there are any elected officials or staff that are here and would like to raise their hand, please do. If you'd like to say anything, not seeing anybody right now. All right, next slide, please. So this meeting is being recorded. We typically record our meetings so that we can post them on the project website. And that allows you to be able to share the presentation with other folks or revisit it. We also will post the meeting minutes and the presentation slides there as well in about a week. And Shauna will drop the link to the project webpage in the chat in case you don't have it. Next slide, please. Awesome. So during the presentation, we ask that your microphone stays muted, and it's up to you whether you'd like to turn your video on or off. But during the discussion at the end, we'd love it if you turn your video on if you feel comfortable doing so. And we hope that everyone will feel comfortable sharing questions and comments here tonight, either verbally or in the chat. But you're also welcome to reach out directly to me via email. And Shauna, if you're able to drop my email in the chat, that would be awesome too. Next slide, please. So we're going to give, the design team's going to give a presentation tonight, and then that will be followed by a listening and discussion session. So if a comment comes up, a question, you can either add it to the chat or wait till the end and raise your hand and we will address it then. If you're joining on Zoom on a computer, you use the raise hand tool, and then we will unmute you and you'll get called on in the order that the hands were raised in. And if you're calling in on a phone, you use *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Next slide, please. Great. So let's get started on the agenda. We'll introduce the project team, and we're sorry for anyone who was here last meeting. We're going to blast through these slides, but and then we'll go over the schedule. Our design team will go through a presentation that summarizes the results from the survey that a lot of you took. And then they'll present 3 design concepts that integrate site analysis, the feedback that you all provided at the first meeting, and the results of the survey. And then that will be followed by a listening and discussion session where we invite you to share your feedback on everything you've seen so far and to let us know if we've missed anything. And then we'll discuss next steps. Next slide, please. So once again, I'm Nellie Ward. I'm the project manager from Boston Parks. Our amazing designers are here. Crowley Cottrell Landscape Architects. We have Naomi Cottrell, the principal, Mark Warfel, and Anna Stoley. We also have Tammy Pierre-Louis, who is our new community outreach coordinator on the call. And she's really great and also is totally able to chat about anything that you've witnessed here tonight or want to chat about. The meeting is being moderated by Shauna Dixon, our amazing graphic arts technician. And Ross Cotran is the Office of Neighborhood Services person who's not on the call tonight, but he is another great person to chat with if you'd like someone else to talk to. Next slide, please. Great. So again, this is the second of 3 community meetings, which is typical for Boston Parks for the design of Byrne Playground. At the first meeting, we talked about site analysis and design direction. And the goal of this meeting is to review the input that we've collected so far and to collect input on 3 design concepts that have been shaped by the previous input. In March or April, we'll have another community meeting, and that's where we will try to integrate the 3 design concepts today into one final concept plan that will be presented to you for feedback again. And then after feedback gets integrated into that concept, that's when we will start going into construction drawings, and Boston Parks and the design team will be working together on that. And then right now we're currently targeting fall, winter for the beginning of construction. Next slide, please. Great. So in any park design, there are 4 components that go into it. We have the City of Boston priorities, we have state and federal safety guidelines and regulations, we have our own parks and rec goals, and then we have a very important voice, which is the community and the people who live in the area and what they need and want. And so we put all of those things together to try to inform the park design. Next slide, please. So the City of Boston, City of Boston goals are family friendly, making spaces accessible and easy for all ages. Green and growing, so that's thinking about climate change, green infrastructure and stormwater. Healthy and safe, creating spaces that improve public health and are also safe to be in. Delivering exceptional city services, so making sure community is heard and having meetings like this. And closing the racial wealth gap, which is thinking about the ways in which systemic racism has created inequities across the city and trying to proactively address them. Next slide, please. So the Parks and Rec goals are really about accessibility, including trying to create spaces that are for all types of different bodies and access, having a diverse and balanced and efficient mix of uses, having meaningful and inclusive community engagement, adaptive and resilient landscapes, and then promoting connections between people and spaces. And next slide. And with that, I'll turn it over to our design team. Carly Cottrell and Mark and Naomi will discuss the survey results and the design direction, and then we will talk about next steps at the end. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Nellie. Good evening, everyone. So I think first we want to jump in and share the results of the opinion survey that we sent out last time. We had a great turnout. Thank you all for submitting responses, over 72 respondents. This first slide we want to talk about is where you all are. So the orange pins on this map represent the closest intersection to where each respondent lives. And the green parks identified here are the parks that our respondents say they visit frequently. We did learn that you all visit the park. Most of you all visit the park every day, if not multiple times a week. And we asked what you do in the park when you come here. Overwhelmingly, we see play and playground come up in the results, as well as walking or dog walking, and then sports, so active sports, whether that's tennis or pickleball. We also asked who you go with, and overwhelmingly everyone goes with someone else. And I think that shows how much of a neighborhood park this is, that we have people not only going with family members, but also friends and neighbors. We asked about the existing amenities. So just to orient you, the 4 options were whether you liked the amenity as is, you would prefer to replace it in kind, if you felt it needed to be redesigned, or it should be eliminated. Of these, overwhelmingly, the tennis court was liked as is. But what we saw, the big takeaway for us was that the community really likes the amenity types that are here, but there's this overall desire for improvement. We saw that the water play and walking loop are some of the areas that needed the most improvement. We also asked you to rank recreational amenities within the park. And so from this list, the one of the things to look at is this is a spectrum from the greenest green is marking it your top choice to the darkest red is saying it's your last choice. We noticed a few trends within this data. One is that picnic tables and shade are the most wanted amenities. So we've looked at ways of adding seating and gathering areas, as well as different kinds of shade that we'll get into later. The other thing we came across was items with the greatest difference of opinion. And so that's on an off-leash dog area. There was a strong proponent of people that definitely want one and some that don't, and lighting.
I think I'll just jump in here to say that you can see on these, when there's an equal amount of green and an equal amount of that dark red, that's when we have a split of opinion. And this will come up in our design schemes, because we'll say that in all of our design schemes, and we'll go into more detail about the dog area, but within our design schemes, we are not showing any new lighting and we're not showing an off-leash dog area. And the reason for this right now, and again, we'll get into more detail on that, is because these are the two elements that were on the survey that had the greatest difference of opinion. And what we want to do in a community space is to amplify the things that bring people together and not amplify things that are split. So we'll talk about that some more.
We asked a number of these questions about ways you describe the park or how you want the park to feel in the future. And we've created these word clouds. So the bigger the word, the more we saw that as a common answer. And so with this first question, we've asked, what is one word that describes the park right now? And overwhelmingly, the biggest, the most common response was that it's related to the neighborhood. We also saw things that it was dated and tired and worn. So I think that again just reiterates that we like what's there and it needs to be improved. We also asked what you would want the one word to describe the park after the renovation, and welcoming came to the top. We also saw green and oasis and making it more inviting and fun. What would you like to see more of? Basketball, dog area, updated playground, lighting, and green space were some of the top answers. And what would you like to see less of? Pavement, shrubbery, dogs, pickleball, and dog poop. And then we asked an open-ended question, is there anything else we should know? And we saw that this is a tight-knit community. There's concerns about some of the vegetation on the site, as well as dog waste and fast cars on the street, but also that it's, there are a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and reiterating the need to update the playground. So our big takeaways from doing this survey is that this is a tight-knit community and that the park is a central hub. Most people like the existing amenity types, but that the park needs to be renovated. That there's differing opinions around dogs, lighting, and basketball, and that people generally agree that the playground and green space, water play, and the walking loop all need improvement. So let's talk a little bit about dog parks. This is a map showing Byrne Playground in relation to the other Boston Park and Recreation Department parks within the vicinity that that have off-leash dog areas. So the closest one of Ronan Park is, just outside of a 15-minute walk. There's also Downer Playground and Garvey Park on the further side. Want to reorient everyone to the plan view that this is Byrne Playground, and Mill Street is on the right, Everett Street is towards the top of the slide, and Elm Street is on the left. These are the existing amenities that are there today. There's the tennis court, the walking loop, the water area, pickleball, and then in the bottom left corner, the playground area. And there are certain requirements that Boston Parks has to install a dog park. One of those is that there's a preferred buffer of 100 feet from all residents. That's shown with this line with the 100 number in it in the center of the park. And then a 50-foot buffer that's allowed with some stipulations and other things. So we've looked at this, and what we've come to know is that the center area that's outside of the 100-foot buffer area is just over 11,000 square feet, which means it's a big enough to be an off-leash dog area for all dogs. Now, we wouldn't necessarily propose this because it would be, taking over the whole park pretty much as an off-leash dog area. But I just want to, as a point of scale, that in order to have an off-leash dog area for all dogs, we need a pretty significant area. We also have the ability to do a small dog only dog park that's about half the size at 5,000 square feet. So what do those two sizes look like within these regulation areas? We have two areas that we've considered where it's possible to have a dog park. The first area in the top left on what is the existing pickleball area would be possible to be a small dog only area. It'd mean that we'd have to move pickleball someplace else. And the second area is where the lawn exists today, and it would be big enough to allow all dogs within the off-leash dog area, but it would take over the lawn that exists there now. So during our discussion, we want to hear from you if the dog park is valuable, and if it's valuable enough to give up something else in the park, to dedicate an area to dogs. None of our proposed designs today incorporate a dog park design, but it's possible in all of them. And so with the note that it would mean, giving up an amenity, whether that's the tennis court or the lawn or something else. So we want to hear from you when we get to the discussion. I'm going to turn it over to Naomi to talk a little bit about what we said last time.
Great. So just to end our analysis here and looking at the survey, when we started to then reorganize program and think about the ways we could improve things around the park, two of the pieces of analysis that we looked at with you all last time kept coming up. And so we have definitely heard a resounding request to rethink the way in which the lawn and the walking area work, and really seeing through the survey that people wanted more green space and having more shade and vegetation. So we know we can improve on this right now. We wanted to bring this up because we understand that what's there right now is a very disjointed lawn area, and the walking, while you can walk around the existing lawn, it's not anything that's very inviting or special. The second slide that I just wanted to remind people of is what we talked about last time as far as fencing is concerned. We had talked last time and showed, you know, some of the challenges with the fencing in the park is that the fences are different heights, they're different ages, they lack a certain amount of cohesion. And I think the biggest thing that we have found when we started to try to reorganize things is that the fences are probably the thing that we think sort of challenge the idea of being welcoming, and that having so many fences and so many fences at different heights. So we've thought a lot about fences within the design schemes. We're not going to walk you through every fence that we've drawn on the plans, but we have a lot of thought about them. And a lot of the things that we're doing, if you can see the cursor, one of the things that we've done is that in all schemes, we've made sure that when you walk in off from Elm Street, that you're not confronted with sort of what looks and feels like a dead end because of a returning fence. And you'll see that in all the schemes. I think the other thing that we just wanted to reiterate from last time was our concern that in all of the spaces that are fenced, pickleball, tennis, and playground, they all have a single point of entry and exit, which is not the safest thing. If you're in a spot after dark, you want to have more than one way to get out of a space. So we've also incorporated that into all of our schemes, and we just wanted to remind you of that. That's part of the thinking. So I don't think I need to go back through the existing conditions, but again, just to orient everybody that Everett Street is to the top of the page, Mill to the right, and Elm to the left. And that is somewhat of a north orientation that you all understand. And we're going to show, we have these diagrams, and then we have these that are more what we call illustrative plans that do show the overlap of canopy and some of the materiality on the ground. We wanted to show everybody this. This is like the table of contents of what we're going to be talking about going forward, and show the 4 different plans that we have for you tonight. So with the existing being in the upper left, and we want you all to look at these in relationship to each other, because there are things that we've tried to do in each of the options. So again, we have 3 options, and they have names, but the names in some ways are just ways to be able to discuss them. We're trying to achieve all of these ideas in all of them. We just wanted to orient you to a couple of things that we have done in each scheme. In each scheme, we have tried to find a space for a half-court basketball, key, and hoop. We don't have any full court basketball, but we are adding in, and sometimes that's in with tennis court, and sometimes it is as a separate element. We are in all 3 schemes looking at an expanded lawn, so taking out the small planters and raised curbs around trees and trying to make a more expansive open play and green space. We also are in each scheme keeping pickleball, tennis, water play, all of the elements that we currently have in the park. We're just shuffling them around. And so as we look at these, we can think if any of these seem like they might be something that you're interested in, but you maybe would like to see how we might think about a dog park. I always think that we have the opportunity to replace the lawn in that upper left right-hand corner with a dog park, or the pickleball or tennis area in the upper left-hand corner with a dog park. Those are places that it fits. And what we'd like, again, to ask the community at the end is whether or not that's something worth giving up one of the active play or the lawn areas. I'll also just call your attention to, we have a pink box that we call Gather. Now, we did hear in the amenities that you all wanted to add that people wanted things like picnic tables. So we have in each of these schemes carved out a spot that we think would be a great area to gather with picnic tables or other types of seating. And they're in different spots in each of these, and we'll walk a little bit through each one of these. But again, this is just to orient you to what's to come. And now we'll jump into all three options here. Okay. So this first option that we're calling Renovate and Celebrate essentially leaves all of the program in place where they are. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to improve them through smaller moves. So in this, you'll see that in each of these elements, say, I'll start at pickleball in the upper left-hand corner. We've provided for multiple ways in and out of the space. We've also provided for some planted buffers. It's similar with playground. We have an area to be able to get into the playground area, but then also opening to water play that then you can get out of the area. In this option, I'm actually going to go back for a minute, because one of the things that I forgot to say we've done in all of these, you'll notice that in all of these, the area that we're showing as orange, the playground, is actually a smaller area than is currently taken up by the playground. And this is for a couple reasons. One is that right now, the way in which your playground is oriented is that you have isolated little satellites or little areas that are where the playground area is. And they are surrounded by other types of paving. And we are trying to be more efficient with the space by having the whole area with the play surfacing and being able to be playable without breaking it up with concrete or other without other paving surfaces. But one of the things that we want to let you know is that the area where the play equipment is actually the same square foot. It is not taking up any space, and in fact, we believe that we can get as much play equipment, if not more, in the new area that has consistent play surfacing over the entirety of it. So I just wanted to go back to that. So now that we've been oriented to this option one, again, some other things that I want to point out, but I'm going to go to the more illustrative plan to point those things out. So again, in this scheme, we show 3 pickleball courts with benches and gathering in an area where there is also then a direct entrance into this area from Elm Street, surrounding it by more trees and giving a little bit more buffer on Everett Street to the play. We have thoughts about how we might do some of the fencing, whether they're short or tall around here, but again, providing for multiple ways in and out, so that people feel it feels welcoming and people feel free to be able to get out if there was any sense of danger. Next, moving to the play area, you'll see that we actually have some of these black line drawings on top of what we would consider the play surfacing. These are similar, but new types of play equipment. So we do have swings and climbers, spinners, other things, just to test out to make sure that the size of the space is okay. So we also have benches and places for parents to be able to sit and watch. In this scheme, we're showing the water play directly adjacent, and actually part of a fenced-in area that is the playground. This is one of those things that we are going to ask you at the end, is to talk about whether or not water play needs to be directly related to, or whether or not we might want it out as a special feature in the rest of the park. We have a gathering area in the middle. So this is the area we might have picnic tables or movable furniture, things that people can gather, but it really becomes then a space that as you are entering in, either from Elm or Everett, that it really is the center of the park. So a place for a community to gather. This is the largest lawn that we have on any of our schemes, or it's the one that we have, I should say, that doesn't have any paths cutting through it. We are adding in trees and making a one big lawn space, which is also something we're going to want to hear from you all about. And so in this scheme, the walking loop really is the perimeter. And that's what we've then provided for, a very shady and then an open area in the middle. And then in this scheme, as is in others, we are keeping tennis where it is, adding in the half-court basketball key. And those would be shared programs. And then thinking about renovation to the line here along the edge, so that this can also be more inviting and open, and that people can feel like they're invited to watch a game. The second option, which we're calling a line of gathering, is similar. So all of three of these options, again, because we heard resounding from the community that you didn't want us to completely blow this out, but that you really wanted us to renovate things in place. This shuffles things just a little bit. What we're doing here is that we are putting tennis where pickleball is. This tennis area could also have the half-court basketball. The reason for doing that is it allows us to be able to actually have a much larger lawn, and to then put a long line of things that we consider community elements. So the gathering, which could be, say, a shade pavilion with picnic tables underneath, some kind of a long gathering area that really creates this threshold between the active recreation and a very large lawn. We also, in this option, are showing the option of an area that's dedicated to adult fitness equipment. So exterior workout, whether that's sit-up benches, pull-up bars. There's a whole line of adult fitness equipment that might be of interest, and we want to hear from you all on that. The playground is in the same area. We are then adding in the third pickleball here along this edge. So this really becomes the edge of pickleball, but again, it being smaller in width than tennis, we can expand the lawn. The water play is near this sort of walking loop that would go in and around. We like the idea of water play in parks that is out in the middle, mostly because they can be really fun for everybody to watch kids splash in water, and adults sometimes like to get wet too in the summer. So we, in this option, have pulled it away from being connected directly with the playground, and want to also hear your comments about that. So again, just with the illustrative, what this might look like, again, with the pickleball along the southern line here, some adult fitness equipment, maybe a shade structure with a long community table. This option also, because the lawn is larger, we have paths cutting through it a little bit to give some more of ability to have some walking loops. So if you were here walking, you could not only walk the exterior, but you could walk the interior and walk around in several different patterns. We would like to hear from the community about whether or not a tricycle track might be something of interest. In this scheme, we could imagine that we could simply paint out a track here for kids to be able to ride their bikes, and having that be something that's sort of internal to the lawn, give us the ability to have the kids do that without being in the main circulation space. And then the last option here, which we're calling Get Active, has, I think, the most, it's not the most. We still are offering pickleball, the half-court basketball, tennis, and adult fitness in this. One of the things that we'd love to hear from you all about is whether or not you think half-court basketball would be something that should be offered on its own instead of in combination with tennis. So that is something that that's unique to this scheme, is that the half-court basketball has actually taken up the space of a third pickleball court. We definitely have heard and have seen real evidence of the pickleball and the ability for it to really be a well-used program here at this park. So we would like to understand if 3 courts are required or are requested, or whether or not you take one up for basketball. Again, there's some of the similar techniques that we're using about being welcoming and having multiple ways in and out, and offering some gathering spots. This is probably the biggest difference in this option, is the center, where we have a long linear gathering space. So and then the water play that's right directly adjacent to it. And we'll walk through that a little bit. So on arrival at this park, this really would be, if you're coming from Everett Street, a pavilion or something that is this, again, it's sort of this becomes a center of the park, a place to sit, a place to hang out, whether there's shade, but definitely tables and chairs. We've expanded that down to this little shaded area to the south where we could have some picnic tables. We're looking at potentially having a game like cornhole or something that is a multi-generational game that could be here in this gathering area. Probably the biggest difference here is that with us having the water play here in the middle, again, it pulls it the farthest away from the playground. We want to just, again, hear from you all. We've had huge success with this kind of a relationship in other parks where water play is directly adjacent to a community gathering table. The reason why we like it is that we think that the shade area, picnic tables, is something that's very attractive as far as multi-generational offerings. And the water play is something too, and that we think that the water play is something that is fantastic for all people to engage in. I think the other advantage of having water play in any of the options where it is out on its own, in the off season, like you have now, in the off season, it is just pavement. So in a scenario like this, where we have an area in the center, we could have this be something that in the off season, when the water is turned off, it can be a place for dance lessons. It could be a place for kids to ride their bikes. There's other things that this can be used for, and although it looks like it's a blank blue box on this, it can be thought of in many different ways. So that's as far as we wanted to go into all of these things. There's lots of other thinking that we've done, but I think that gives the general differences between all of these. And what we'll probably do is we're going to go ahead to some slides just to prompt some questions for you all that we would like to hear on. And we can always go back to these so we can see the different plans together. But as to start the listening and the discussions session, we do want to just ask some leading questions. So like we said, tonight really is showing us shuffling the different programs around in not too different of ways. You'll notice that the courts remain the courts. The playground remains in the playground. The lawn area remains in the lawn area, but the sizes may change and some of the other adjacencies might change. So these are some of the questions. So we would love to know if you need and would like a third pickleball court. Or if the third pickleball court could be a half basketball court. For tennis, we would like to understand if it's okay to share with the half court basketball court. Again, these are sort of the similar questions. How much pickleball? How exclusive does tennis need to be and or basketball need to be? We would love to hear about adult fitness, if there is interest in equipment for working out. We'd also like to hear about the lawn and if you'd like it to be more cut up with paths that make circuits, or if you like it to be as contiguous and continuous of a space as possible. We would like to know if there's any interest in a trike track. Water play, again, I talked a little bit about the success we've had with linking water play with, say, gathering or viewing areas. Is that something that's interesting, or do you really like it very much attached to playground? And then lastly, we would like to hear about an off-leash dog park as being an element in here, and whether or not it's valuable enough to give up tennis or the lawn or something else. So with those questions in mind, I am going to go back to the plans because I think that's always helpful when we start to talk. Nellie, someone on your end going to call on people for questions?
Yeah, Shauna, if you could help us identify the order of hands raised and questions in the chat, that'd be great.
Okay, so the first person is Paul Doherty. Go ahead.
Great. Hi, Paul. Can you unmute Paul? Shauna?
I pressed for him to unmute.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to do it.
There
Oh,
you
there,
go.
There you did. Success.
I guess I do know how to do it.
Yeah,
I guess you
Yeah.
do.
put something over there with computer learning and stuff, you know, that would be. I'd like to say that, you know, I think, you know, all the designs look pretty good. We might be trying to squeeze a little too much into the park with the size it is. And, you know, of course, I'm a big pickleball promoter, but I don't know if we actually need 3 pickleball courts. We're trying to keep it kind of neighborhood pickleball. We don't want to make it a destination pickleball, you know, and so, you know, that being said, I think, you know, on some of the other things that should be left up to, you know, the young families with small children about what they think of the tot lot. And at the beginning, when they had the map showing areas where there was, you know, off leash, I think what they were saying, dog things. Yeah, that was only in the city. They didn't include sites that belong to the state. You know, just really almost 10 minutes away is what we call the Troy landfill, which is that island over near the gas tank. And that's almost like a whole island they have over there. And I think along state beaches like Malibu and stuff, I think in the off seasons, I think those are off leash too, I believe, but they're also, you know, good walking areas. And those Malibu Beach is probably 5 minutes away. So that plan didn't really include those state areas. And like I say, it's probably a little early to say, but somewhere in the water feature development, I'd like to be maybe a source of water for public, you know, say, you know, the Parks Department or somebody responsible to, you know, if there was some kind of flower planters or something, that they'd be able to have a source of water.
So like a hose bib or some kind of a lockable. Yeah, that's great.
Box that's there right now, you know, a responsible person in the neighborhood has a key to that box, and we have a hose in there, and we watered the plants that were there from there. So if there could be something like that, that'd be nice. And now I got a question. I don't want to tie up everything.
I want to say something too.
But a lot of the trees that are there are on the property outside the park. Would we have to get cooperation from those people about, you know, trimming those trees and things like that?
I'll ask the city to answer that question.
So we're able to trim branches that are overhanging the property line, but we can't trim other branches that are not.
Okay.
So we're not typically doing a lot of pruning off property, but in some cases where there's like a conflict, we can do that.
Okay. My wife Denise just she has a question too. Sorry.
So I just want to say, great. These all of these plans are great. I love it. I love the adult fitness options. You see them everywhere, and I think that's great. And you did talk about bike, scooter paths. I think that's crucial for kids. It's a safe environment for them to be able to you know, for them to be out there. So I think I as a grandmother think that that's a great option. And I think I like the water play area removed the way it is in the third option. I like the fact that you have a shade area that you can sit under as the kids play, and they can come in and out of that. So, and I agree that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I think that 2 pickleballs courts are probably, you know, are probably good. We get by with that now, and you know, other people might have other thoughts, but so yeah, if we eliminated a third, that basketball, half basketball court could take that place, you know? So, and this might be premature, it might be a little too early, but on the water play areas, will the features, will there be different features than we have? Because right now it's really kind of lame for the kids, if you know what I mean. So I don't know if this is too early, but I'm just going to say fun water features would be cool.
Yeah, I think that at least what we've been thinking of, but we can look at it. We like to do in-ground ones that pop up and have different types of spray rather than being something that's a piece of equipment that's above that could break or get knocked over. But we've done them in places where it also can get programmed where it starts to spray over here and then it comes up over here and you can run back and forth. And so we'd like to do something like that. And in an area where it is longer and linear, like in option 3, you have the ability to be able to spread them out. So it can become a game as to where it comes up. So that was the thinking about it in option 3. It would be something, but in all 3 of them, we are thinking it's more jets and different types of jets.
Perfect, perfect. So, okay, so that's all. And I just say thank you so much for these great thoughts and designs.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul and Denise.
You're welcome.
All right, Shauna, who do we have next?
We have David Lewis. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much to your team for presenting these great options and soliciting the community feedback. I've definitely felt very included in this process and I appreciate it. I'll try to keep it brief. I think I want to agree with Paul and Denise that I don't think 3 pickleball courts are necessary. I was definitely one of the strong proponents of adding a half court basketball feature just because I have 3 kids. We all play basketball. They have friends that play basketball, and accessibility in the neighborhood is a big challenge. You know, Ronan and Victory and Town Park and Hemingway all have basketball courts, but none of them are really walkable. Victory is mildly walkable, but it's not a pleasant walk, and it's often full. So and what I would say is I really think it's important that the basketball is self-contained and not shared with tennis, because in options 1 and 2, it looks like the 3-point line and the back baseline of the tennis court are kind of overlapping, and I don't see how both games could take place at the same time.
Yeah,
And
they couldn't, Paul. David, you're right. That was really the question. So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and especially, you know, given that accessibility is one of the primary things that we're seeking, is to be able to play basketball. I would hate to come down there with my kids and not be able to play because there was an existing tennis game. So and I think 2 pickleball courts is sufficient. It's a good amount. The other things that I would share, I somewhat agree with Denise about the having a bike or scooter loops, but I also see the advantage of having a bigger lawn and green space that's continuous for, let's say, like smaller soccer practice for young kids and stuff like that, and just a place where you can truly kind of run around. So so I do like the idea of having a larger lawn. As of now, I'd sort of lean towards that. And I love the fact that all the designs have a gathering space that's added. That was definitely something that was important to us. And I think, you know, if we can maximize that space as much as possible, like definitely have, you know, at least a few kind of picnic benches where you could have like a little kid's birthday party there or something like that. I think that would be amazing. I don't mind it being adjacent to the water feature. That doesn't bother me at all. But these are great concepts, and I'm you know, really pleased and touched with this presentation.
Thanks, David. Appreciate your feedback.
Thanks, David. Do we have more hands raised, Shauna?
Not that I can see right now.
We do have one comment on the chat. And I think this is saying a similar thing that David Lewis just said, saying one hoop courts should be considered for teens. The city took them all down, kids grow in the neighborhood. So if this person, the Zoom user who's this person, wants to clarify your comment there, if you're in favor, I think you're in favor of a single hoop half court. I think that's what that means. Oh, okay, now Brendan. Great, there's another person.
Okay, Brendan.
Hi there. These are all amazing. Thank you so much. I had a question because I do agree with everyone that's said something so far about 2 pickleball courts being enough. But I wanted to get your thoughts on option 2. If one of those pickleball courts, if it was enough space for the half court basketball in one of those currently labeled pickleball spots. And I asked that just because it seems like putting the half court basketball closest to the street just raises some concerns with the kids that might be playing in that space, playing basketball in that space. So I didn't know if there was enough space in one of those pickleball courts for a half court basketball instead of having it where it was in option what was it?
2, yeah, we have that plan up right now. I think you can see it.
Yeah.
We could fit the half court basketball in this third pickleball area that if you see my cursor right now,
Right.
it doesn't it fit there?
No, I don't know if they can see.
Oh, I don't know if you can see
Yes,
that.
we can see
Okay,
that first.
great. So anyway, that is the appropriate size. So we could fit it there and it would be something that is separate, that wouldn't have to, again, like you're not sharing a space or court time with another sport.
Great.
Brendan,
That
I
was-
didn't understand your question. What did you mean about you were concerned about the kids who would be playing in the space?
Well, I guess if you go to the option where the basketball court is right next to the street, and I think it was either 1 or 3. Yes.
This one.
Uh-huh.
I guess it's not truly a concern. It's just that I can't tell if there's an entrance to the park right there at the half basketball on the other side there where that
There's
green.
not one here on the street.
Oh, okay.
We have a break in the planted area.
Okay.
So you can come and go here, but it's not we only had one the only place that we had I'm just gonna go forward. So the only place that we had a separate entrance was when we had this all being pickleball over here, we had a separate entrance coming and going for pickleball. So
Okay.
to your comment on this third option, when we had it be a half court basketball, we did close that off.
I see. All right. I didn't see that before, so that clarifies my
Okay.
initial concern. I thought that was entrance to the park.
Yeah, and so just so that everybody understands is that we can fit a half court basketball over here in this pickleball area. I think it could also fit in the second one too, as far as they get a little bit narrower. So we could study it certainly in that option as its own piece.
Great. I do one my only other last comment, and then I'll leave it be. I do like the idea of moving the tennis court over there. I feel like where it currently is wastes a lot of space. And it seems like in option 2, we're really getting more space in that area and less wasted space around the tennis court. But that's all.
Great, thank you for those comments. I think that's great.
Other questions? Or comments? We'd love to get some, general consensus on direction or program pieces of the program that feel right or don't feel right from each different option?
Nellie, we do have some, we have a couple comments in the chat. Again, so I'll go ahead and read that if no one else, but the follow-up question to the basketball comment was on Dot Ave. They just did a hoop and added a fence for the basketball. So I think that, again, this participant is wanting to have just simply, you know, a hoop and offering that as an option for folks. We also have a comment about too much pickleball draws big crowds and loud for residents that live close. So I think that this participant is also saying that we want to be careful not to have too much pickleball, which I think we're hearing pretty clearly from everybody. We have a comment from Lucas that says, our thoughts, 3 pickleball courts is not necessary. Adult fitness seems not very useful and perhaps just unsightly. Lastly, we don't feel like a dedicated basketball would serve us well and invite non-neighbors in. Sorry, which we don't want. Lastly, we don't have a dog, but feel like it's necessary to have a dog park. And Lucas is the only person so far that has spoken out about a dog park. So Lucas, if you're still here, I guess, and if you feel comfortable talking on screen, I think the thing we would like to know is if you feel it's necessary to have a dog park, which element do you think it should replace? In studying it, it's really, we need to get rid of either tennis or the lawn, or pickleball. And so just because we can't really fit all of it together, it's just too many things. And I think back to some of the comments we had before, trying to fit so many things into the park. So if you either want to put it in the chat or if you want to get on screen, or if anybody else wants to take up the comment about dog parks, we'd love to hear it, because again, it was something that was a challenge for us. We were trying to figure out how to fit it. We are trying to not have another fenced in area that was exclusive for one use, because what we found is that if you kept everything and you added a dog park, we only really had fences and a walkway. So Lucas is trying to unmute, but he can't. Nellie, I don't know if you can help with that, or.
Let's see if I can.
Yep, I just gave him permission to unmute.
Great.
Oh, there we go. Let me see if I can do this. Sorry, I'm multitasking here with my little one.
That's good.
What was your, what would we give up? I mean, just speaking for us, one of the pickleball courts, or you have an opinion too? One of the basketball court, or the, in some combination with that, the adult fitness. Again, we don't have a dog, but it seems like we're the only ones who don't. And although we like dogs, I'm sure other people who don't may not want to share some of the spaces with dogs. And we have some dedicated dog owners that will make use of whatever space is there, whether you do or not. I think we've had to remove tennis court doors for it or not, or sorry, for it before. So I think whether we cater to them or not, the dogs will be around. So
I don't know if you were on
this one I keep on a leash though, so he's all right.
It's very cute. I don't know if you were on the meeting when we went through the constraints for dog parks, but some of the issues are, and I hear you, and we've noted that adult fitness and potentially the half court basketball are things that you would be willing to give up. Unfortunately, those elements aren't large enough for the city's recommended sizes. I mean, I think that that's the biggest challenge that we have, is that in order to even accommodate a small dog off leash area, we have to have 5,000 square feet. That's a continuous space. And so that is approximately the size of the existing tennis court. And then for all dogs, large and small, it really takes up the existing lawn walking loop area. So it's a size issue. So you have to give up a big program in order to be able to make it happen.
And there's a couple other things I'd like to add on to that. In all of these cases, there's not a dog park area that is outside of the 100-foot
Right.
offset as we saw, and 50-foot is really like a super like hard minimum, and we rarely make exceptions that are within the 50 to 100-foot buffer, but sometimes we do. So I just want to throw that out there too. It's not neither option really works based on just the offsets. In addition, it's important to note that in the smaller dog park areas, like less than 10,000 square feet, which we really don't like to do because people with bigger dogs will bring their dogs into the smaller dog areas, even if they're not supposed to, is that dogs in the areas that are less than 10,000 square feet tend to behave more aggressively. It leads to like more tension and conflict because the dogs feel trapped and stressed. So we really don't like to do dog parks that are less than 10,000 square feet. And then finally, in addition to that, I just want to make it really clear that the surface that the dog park goes, like the surface base material is some kind of like gravel. It's not lawn, it's not AstroTurf, it's a gravel. So I think that's also important to imagine, a quarter of the park being a huge gravel area that's fenced in. And so that's like a big change to this space. And we've heard so much that this park is really important the way that it is, and that it's working, generally speaking, the way that it is. And so that would be like a very big change that we would want the majority of people to come together to support before we made that kind of a huge impact on this like really pretty small, important neighborhood space. So, and then the last thing I want to throw out there is that we often see existing trees, if we put a dog park around an existing tree area, suffer from the compaction, from urine, from the gravel. And so it does happen that existing trees will get stressed and their lifespans can be shortened by putting a dog park around them. So in that like lawn area, which is the area that a 10,000 square foot dog park would fit, there are some existing trees. And we can't make any promises that they will continue to be as healthy as they are if we were to, change the surface and change the use of the park so drastically. Just want to throw all of that out there for the decision-making process.
Okay, Nelly, I believe there's a comment or a question from Christian who just joined us. He was asking about the nighttime lighting.
Yeah, thanks. So Naomi or do you want to speak to the lighting or should I?
Yeah, Christian, hi there. So we have talked a little bit about lighting, and I'll say that none of the schemes that we have up on the screen have any kind of lighting at night. And that really is because when we heard from you all in the opinion survey, it was one of the most it was one of the elements in the park or potential elements in the park that was the least agreed upon. There were as many people who wanted to have lighting as did not want to have lighting. And as we described earlier, when we see trends like that, when we see that there's really a differencing of opinions between neighbors, we tend not to add that element in if it's not already there. We tend to keep it if it is there, because it is, you know, again, we would be amplifying something that is truly not something that would bring the community together. It might divide neighbors more. So typically Boston parks are closed at night. Nellie, you can speak to the regulations and rules. I know that probably your park gets used at off hours, but they're supposed to be closed, and to that end, we would not be lighting this for evening use. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Nellie.
Sure, yeah, there's two kinds of lights that we can do. There's sports lighting and then there's pedestrian lighting. The sports lighting is basically just lighting the courts. It's a very specific light that has a really great cutoff. It's just directed specifically towards the court. And those lights run from around 6 p.m. or from dusk to around 10:45. And there's two different ways that those get turned on. They can be permitted, and they're kind of like associated with basically like an electronic system that turns them on and off based on when the permit hours are. Or there's like a push button option where if you push the button, the light stays on for like a half an hour increments, which we're tending to go towards, even though sometimes it's annoying because they'll shut off in the middle of a game, but you can turn them right back on if you need to. We haven't budgeted for sports lighting in this project because it wasn't something that we heard originally was really desired here. It's very expensive, and that would take away from other park elements like playground or spray ground or gathering spaces. So if it's something that's really wanted, we can look at that, but it isn't part of the scope currently. The other type of lighting that we do is pedestrian lighting. And we don't typically do a lot of pedestrian lighting, but only in cases where there's some kind of like really, we've heard a lot of feedback about there being major like nighttime issues or security issues, or if it's in just like a space that needs to be sort of like highly regulated. And the way that those lights work is they're on the Boston Streets lighting grid. So those are on all night. They stay on when they come on and they go off at the same time that all the street lights come on and off. We can't control those. They're not like connected to anything Boston Parks. So we typically, most neighbors do not want those because it would really, you have them on all night, and they can, be undesirable, that kind of lighting to see out your window. So in this case, and from looking at the lights on the street, it does look like this park is getting enough perimeter lighting from the existing perimeter street lights. And we haven't really seen a lot of demand or need for additional lighting. So that's also one of the reasons why we didn't include it in any of the designs right now.
Okay, there's another question from Brendan. He says, are there any options for more minor dim lighting just as a safety precaution around the paths?
We don't have another lighting option as a standard for Boston Parks, no. Sometimes like residents can put in like solar lights, like stake lights, but those are like not parks. We don't like recommend those. We don't, we wouldn't tell you to go do that, but some neighbors have done those on some parks. So unless we saw like everybody really want lighting, lighting is not probably going to come into this park because it so drastically impacts the rest of the project budget and the way that we break up the program. And I saw some comments about no basketball, and I just wanted to say that our parks are really, of course, like prioritizing the adjacent neighbors to our parks is important, and we always try to cater to the direct abutters. But I just also want to mention that we really try to make the all our parks as inclusive as possible, and they are for all people that live, all residents of Boston. They're not just for folks who live right directly next to the park. And of course, like I'm not, your needs are also very important to us. However, unless there's a really good reason to not like make a space more inviting to folks who like an activity, I don't really see a reason to not include a sport unless it's really displacing another sport that's desired more than the basketball court. But right now it seems like there might be room for a half court.
Yeah, we'll say for folks that joined us late that we're not proposing full court basketball anywhere here. We're proposing a half court maximum with a single hoop. It's not full courts. This is for smaller casual shooting of baskets, not games. We heard that last time, and that's what the schemes are showing. So just so that everybody knows, this is not a basketball court. This is a half court hoop and a key. And I will say, we are looking at the chat. Sometimes it's really hard to understand what people are actually saying because we don't hear your intonation and we don't know if you're being sarcastic or if you're being so if there are folks that really want their opinions heard, we would love to hear you say it out loud, because sometimes it is really hard to understand in the chats with these short little blips what your true opinion is. So again, we'd love to hear all comments, especially when someone is asking to dial in. A Zoom user is asking if they can dial in. If you're on this chat and you're from a phone, I guess is what you're calling in from a phone. That answer is yes, they're dialing in from a phone.
I think you press *9 to raise your hand on your phone, and we can see. It looks like you're on the computer though. I have a question while that's getting sorted out. Right now there are a couple of planters that haven't been used for a long time. They're broken open and not getting the use that they could have when they were more intact. And typically Boston Parks doesn't do a lot of like horticultural plantings. We do shrubs, we do trees, but in some cases where there's a really active community and there's a community group or friends group that really wants to be involved or wants to take ownership of a little planter bed, we will propose a small planting area that the community agrees to take care of and maintain. And I think we both saw that there was, the planter area below the community bulletin board, and then there were the old planters by the tennis court. And I wondered if that was something that was important to folks here at Byrne, if you'd want to see that in one of these proposed designs, some kind of planted area that the community takes care of, or if that's something that really isn't necessary.
And hopefully folks can respond to that. I think that we do have the Zoom user who wanted to get on and raise their hand is unmuted. And
hi, can I speak?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, great. So I'm so sorry for the chat. I'm actually off site, but I just want to share. My name is Marta Carney and I live down in Savin Hill, and we're getting ready for a park reno at some point. We've been in talks with Ryan Woods and stuff, but it's still a while. But just some experience. We had an abutters meeting, like we all live, on the park ring. And so I just want to share, on the lights, just be careful, because 9 o'clock, if you have them on, the city likes to have them on till 9 or sometimes 11. And then people don't leave till 10, and then it's just a problem. And the basketball courts, we have a full court that we're going to try to go for one of those small rec basketball hoops. We have a lot of problems with them. So, a little play one is fine. Ryan Playground just did it. So, and then pickleball, we have people that just painted stuff over there now. One is great. I guess 2 will probably come, but I wouldn't overdo it, because we do get crowds, adults bringing beverages, and it gets loud. But overall, the city's been great. I know we met with the City of Office Equity Inclusion She just left Reverend Hammond White, and she pretty much told us we needed basketball courts. We need to be, you know, welcoming for teens and all that. So just keep all that in mind. And I'm excited. I drive by your park all the time. It's beautiful, and I'm really excited to see the changes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, if we're getting to the end of our comments and questions, we can certainly let everyone return to their busy schedules. Any other questions, or Naomi and Mark, any more clarifying things that we wanted to chat about?
Well, I just think, again, these are our like closing questions. Is there something we missed? Are you concerned about any of the direction of these improvements? And hopefully you would have answered these already, but and or after seeing the results of the neighborhood opinion survey, are there things you disagree with completely and want us to look at further? There's another message in the chat. Okay.
Paul.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Great. Well, if nothing's coming to mind now, everyone is also more than welcome to follow up via email. My email is there at the bottom, and I will be emailing in about a week with any more updates and the slides and notes from the meeting. And please be on the lookout for the next community meeting, which will be sometime in either March or April. And that's when we will present one concept that we'll ask for more feedback on. So thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciated your time and comments. And thank you so much to our design team for your amazing work.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks all.